knowsbest.com.
Hey, welcome to Nose Best Weekly. This is your single nostril living coach, Jim Hansen. It's January 15th. We're hiking up a private trail. Nobody really knows about this thing. And I'm clearing out brush on the way up and talking. I'll explain why I'm doing that in just a second. But in this episode, we're going to talk about mucociliary clearance, which is basically how the stuff that gets made in your nose gets to where it's supposed to go. A couple of housekeeping items. First, if there's something wrong with your nose, please see a doctor. It is so easy to get certain things taken care of early, especially the nose cancers are among the worst. If you can catch it early, it's a huge, wonderful thing. Your doctor's going to be very happy he saw you. Secondly, if you're a social media guy or gal, please reach out to me if you think this could be better somehow, because this is my first attempt at doing this. And then if you're a clinician, my book, Nose Best, is finished. It's at the editor. It's being reviewed. If you would like to review it, I'd love it if you would. It has 102 references in there. Give me a call and we'll make sure you get a copy. So that one there is probably too big to lift out. Oh, no, I can get that out of there. So the reason I'm coming down this trail, ooh, that's really stuck in the ground, is because when I'm working out, even, kind of physical activity and talking at the same time, that is a surefire method of crashing your nasal cycle. Now remember, the nasal cycle is observed in most mammals and in most humans. It's the tendency for one nostril to be totally congested while the other one is open for breathing and swapping about 10 times a day. Nasal cycle optimization is simply making sure one side is completely shut down, the other side completely open, and it swaps back and forth quite dramatically. My theory is that when that happens, the side that's congested is most important. Congestion is your friend. And that it goes through a cycle of deep cellular and biological repair. That means that you're going to just be more efficient at things like not being susceptible to allergies, sleep apnea, snoring, etc. Your nose health will improve chronically, and actually quite suddenly, if you do that. So we're going to talk about mucociliary clearance. What that is that's the speed at which the mucus that's generated in your nose and in your sinuses drains down your throat. And actually, doctors actually measure that to make sure that you're working well if you have some kind of disease or cold or whatever. And what the test is, pretty simple. You basically just put a drop of sugar at the end of your nose and then just time how long it takes before you can taste it in your mouth. And, 3 to 5 minutes is kind of typical. And boy, that one's stuck in the ground. It's what we call widowmakers here in Oregon, is these kind of branches like this that fall down because they come and they kill everybody every year. But anyway, you would ask the question, well, like, which nostril should be faster at mucociliary clearance? The one that's shut down or the one that's breathing? There's a clear path for the one that's breathing. Or would you believe it's actually the one that's shut down? So actually, it's when you're shut down, it's more efficient at clearing out your nostril. When you're congested, it actually works better because the cilia, and these are these little cup-shaped things, they beat about 7 times per second in unison, like a crew shell with a coxswain, and that's sweeping all of that mucus down. When that's congested, both sides are closer together. It's just like plunging the toilet. It's a lot easier to do when the bowl is full rather when the bowl is empty. You just get a lot more suction. It just works a lot better. Counterintuitive. So anyway, right now we're going to test my nasal cycle because hopefully it'll crash here. That side's pretty well open. You can hear it. This side totally shut. If it crashes, this side will get congested too, and I'll be congested on both sides, which is bad. You want to be congested on one side only and then swap back and forth about 2.5 times a day, roughly, 10 times a day, about every 2.5 hours. So, going back to this river of mucus, and with all deference to my good friends at Mucinex, I actually wish I had something that was the opposite, like mucus full or snots a lot or something like that, because mucus is your friend. And when you're clearing it out right, there's so many good things that happen. So let's talk about just mucus, how it works. Mucus, you look at it and think, it's just like some watery stuff. What turns out, mucus actually has 3 layers to it. There's a layer that sticks next to the cilia, and basically it helps the cilia. Oh boy, that's a big log. It helps the cilia grab onto the entire raft of mucus heading back towards the back of your throat, and it's sort of like it's got handles in it so the mucus can grab it better. Now the next layer is mostly like just some liquids and some unsaturated fats, but embedded in that is a whole bunch of proteins, and some of those are specific. Like there's stuff that your great-great-great-grandfather had that's actually produced in your nose, is trying to kill whatever that mold or bacteria is today, even before it gets into your stomach. And then the final layer on top is sort of like fly paper. It's designed to be sticky and trap viruses, mold, spores. So the structure of your mucus is even as much as of importance as the amount and the speed of the mucus. So you want to have structured mucus. Now, why is that? How does that relate to the nasal cycle? That's a big one. So when your nasal cycle is working well, during your periods of congestion, your glands recharge. It gives a rest to the cells that have been working when you're breathing, and I believe that it increases the amount of mucus that you can make, makes it less viscous, and so you have more of it. It goes down your throat better, and it's better at catching all that horrible stuff that you're breathing. So it's just critically important that you get shut down really, really hard. And this one is going to need a chainsaw, not my handsaw. Well, anyway, this is what came down last week during the big flood. So anyway, make a little progress cleaning this sucker out. So let's talk about these 3 layers. So they're going down your throat, and when they go down the back of your throat, they actually go down your esophagus, through your digestive system, and you know, that stuff that comes out the other end. It looks like the mucus. Turns out there's a lot of evidence that it exactly is. So that system of 3 layers and all the things that in the mucus is critical for things like leaky gut syndrome, for transferring a lot of the information in the environment, mold, bacteria, whatever. It gets compromised by your mucus. It gets like it's dead, but it still looks very much like a live virus. And when that gets into your immune system and it actually transfers through your intestines, etc., and it gets into your bloodstream, that is information for your immune system. If you're not doing that, it's kind of like having an army that has no orders. It doesn't know what to kill. So what does it do? Well, it gets in local bar fights. And so that's why you have things like, now this is just a theory, right? But I think that's why you have autoimmune diseases, you know, with everything from arthritis to ADHD, you name it, right? It's because your cells, your immune system is attacking you because there's nothing better to go after. And that's because you have not got your nasal cycle optimized, or you don't even have one at all. And so you're not doing a good job of creating the critical mucus that you need. I'm going to hike up my pants here. I'm getting old. So anyway, so we've talked about the speed. We've talked about the structure. We've talked about the importance of this river going through. So why is it when I actually figured out nasal cycle optimization, why is it that basically everything went away? My allergies, sleep apnea, all of my snoring, and I slept like a baby. Everything was great. Well, my theory is the reason that happened is because basically I was able to increase the amount of mucus going through my system. And just at the very beginning, imagine that you were totally allergic to bees. I'm going to try to go over this log without killing myself. Imagine you were deathly allergic to bees, okay? And bees were really bad, but like the entire air, the entire environment was nothing but bees, nothing but just solid insects that could kill you, right? You know, how would you deal with that if that was the case? Well, one of the things you could do is you could put on a wetsuit, and well, that one I'm going to be able to get with my saw. So you could put on this one's across the trail. you could put on a wetsuit, you go underwater, and it doesn't matter that there's bees in the giant environment. You're underwater, you're in a wetsuit, even if there's some dead bees floating around in the water, they're not going to sting you. So that's my metaphor for why it is you should not be affected by allergies at all, right? But you are. So why? Well, it's because I believe you haven't created the river and you're not in your little wetsuit, right? So that's one of the things that we need to fix by doing the nasal cycle optimization, by doing things like faking a sneeze. Now look at this. Crashed. Look at this. This side's starting to get shut down. This side is open, right? So talking and working out two bad things together, because when I'm talking, I'm not breathing through my nose. The signal to decongest is by breathing through a nostril, and if you're not, it tends to get congested, right? So here's what we're going to do. Yeah, it's shifted to the other side. Look at that. Sure, told you it was coming. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to do this fake sneeze on this side right now, so, or snot rocket, whatever you want to do. So here I go. Now I'm going to wait a minute and then sniff everything down. I'll have shifted to this side. Pretty easy. So you do not need to be much of a scientist to figure this out. So anyway, so where was I? Okay, so we're talking about getting in a wetsuit and being underground. So if in fact you've got this going right, you should be able to go out when there's pollen all over the place, and it really shouldn't affect you. And in fact, I've done experiments now that I know how to do this that are, probably shouldn't be even tried on criminals. Like in Oregon, when this whole fire on this other hill was so bad that the air index was like 800 and something, and it said like, it's harmful for, dangerous for anybody to even go outside. Well, I came up this very trail, hiked up to the top, didn't bother me at all. Once again, I think that when you optimize your nasal cycle and you're breathing through only one nostril, crushing, sure as heck not talking, okay, then what happens is that actually even the particles of smoke can't make that turn. Those particles are going by at about almost 200 knots, as fast as a Category 5 hurricane. And what the problem is that they just simply can't make the turn. They just can't get past. The air can easily go around that turbinate, but the particles cannot, right? It's the same way that on when I'm flying a turboprop, there's an inlet, a mouth before the turbine. Actually, the air comes in, turns around, goes the other direction, and then goes into the jet engine. That's so you don't suck up rocks. Well, what happens, there's a plate in the back. The rocks come in, they can't make the turn. The air can, rocks fall out the bottom. And that's why a turboprop, you can land a turboprop on a dirt strip and not lose your, $1 million engine, right? Same way with your nose. So here we go, minutes pass by. So here's what I'm gonna do. I snuffed down probably a teaspoon, which is pretty productive, right? And of course I swallow every bit of that because that's what I need to, for immune health, right? I get more continuous power now. I ran up this trail when I was a kid. I can do it faster now than I ever did in my 20s, okay? And I believe that's simply because I've not optimized my nasal cycle. So anyway, going back to, how are we gonna do this? Let's just talk about this river of mucus going down your throat. And we've learned that more of it is better. And we want to make sure that it's structured correctly. It has the 3 layers. And so, here we go. Kind of aiming at the wrong thing here. Is that? There we go. So we've determined that we want to do that. And so how does one really do it? Well, the most important thing is just simply to make sure that one nostril is always open. That's why I talk about single nostril life. Like when I'm coming up this trail, when I'm skiing, when I'm doing anything physical, I'm only breathing through one nostril. The other one's completely shut down. And so the way you do that is like what I just showed you. You can do a fake sneeze. You can do a snot rocket. You can do what the sniffing dogs do, like golden retrievers, where they sniff, snort, snort. Well, why are they doing that? I mean, I learned this from my golden retriever. Whatever it is, it's obvious to the dog, and it's not obvious to you. Try it. You might just learn something. But when you do that snort, that's what causes the side to be decongested. So honestly, don't believe you need Muconnect. Whatever the crap is, it's exactly backwards. what you want to do is use your nasal cycle optimization to get one side completely congested, the other side completely open. Well, we're at the end of the 15 minutes, my friend. We got to get this stuff out of the road here. I'll see you next week. Nose Best, one nostril life, my friend. Nose Best Weekly, where we learn nasal cycle optimization theory and live on one nostril at a time.